Okay, check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Hello, 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 hello. It looks like it's working. Check 1 2. All right, looks like we're up and going.
Okay, check 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yep.
Check one
All right.
two.
Perfect. So if you see me, hear me, looking forward to um, having a conversation. We're going to cover a lot of things. Got a little bit of non-planar stuff, some stuff about automation, some stuff about adjustable sockets, two-piece
Check
sockets,
1 2.
and the
And looks
last
like
thing that we've
we're up and
got
going.
is something about
Yep,
um,
perfect.
what we're up to with the comparison of airfit versus maybe some hand casting methods. So I'm really excited about that. Let me just make sure that we are streaming to the other place. And so, all right, cool. Well, let's get right to it. So, one of the things that has been very interesting, really, since Click Medical released their dial, is the adjustability and how important that is for patients. And I think it's somewhere on Click Medical's website, but it's over people fluctuate in volume 5% or more per day. And so the idea of having adjustability makes a lot of sense. However, it let's see. However, it's super important that you get paid for the work that you do. And there wasn't it was a real pain to make these devices, and it took technicians a long time. Sometimes you'd flood the channels. I mean, all kinds of different things with adjustable sockets. But then along came 3D printing. So this combination of the technology along with automation, 3D printing really makes the stuff that Click Medical is doing viable and a really interesting way to add value to the patient, but also add value to the bottom line. I mean, if we're really talking about that, the bottom line is important. How do you get paid for what you do? So I wanted to show you this particular socket here. So this is obviously a very small socket, but this is completely automated, and it's smaller than my hands, and you can imagine the panels go in there. I forgot to grab them. But here is the thing about 3D printing with, say, even a nylon 11 or 12, is you have to compensate with the design to make things thicker in certain areas so they don't break. The nylon 11 and nylon 12s, they perform amazing when you do not have cutouts in it. But when you have cutouts in it, then things start kind of falling apart and potentially failures, depending on your design style. Now, there's some people that do it very well, but you can see that things are much thicker, or they do some other tricks to make sure that these areas are not affected by thin spots. So, one of the things, like this posterior aspect, that we have found is we call them our nitro power sockets. And this is an SLS process with a very durable material that's not in the polyamide family. And the neat thing is you can go thin and you do not have to worry about things breaking. And so, I'm pushing on this, and you can see, and I can put my whole weight on this. And if a lot of times, if you were to do that and over bend it or step on it with, say, a PA11 or 12, more than likely it's going to fracture in these areas. So you just have to be really careful on how you design those sockets. So that's one of the things that I'm super excited with what we're doing with Advanced 3D is we're creating these sockets in a quick, efficient manner. But if you take a look how beautiful the routing of the cable is. Now, there are some people that really think that it's neat to hide the way cabling goes, and it's a beautiful sockets and ways to look at it. I would say one of the downsides, though, of trying to get away with hiding some of this is you end up with both a thicker socket where those lines run, and you are only addressing more the circumferential aspect of the socket when you pull in rather than actually leveraging some of the linear aspects that you get. One company that does this really well, it's quite interesting actually, that they do it really well is Quorum. And they do that really well with the Quattro socket. You can see that their pads are nice and thick pads, and they linearly push in on the patient to control the legs. And I think that's very, very important. Looks like we've got a comment here. Let me just see what people are saying. Oh, he said yes, I hear you. So one of the that's this. The other one that we're doing is one that has a just a posterior flap. It is a great way to get into the adjustable socket. Not only are you getting some circumferential, but you're also getting that AP compression, which is a lot of times nice for patients. But this SLS style material is so important, I think, for the added safety factor when you're looking at adjustable sockets. So we're looking for not only circumferential tension, but also a linear tension. So you're getting, say, pretibial and popliteal aspects pushing. So the next thing that I think is very interesting is what we've been doing with sockets. And I am actually going to connect to my phone to show you a couple things. Um, so just 1 second, I will show you that. So we're going to go here. And we're going to go to the videos. I want to just show you a couple things that we've been working on. All right, so I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller. And then we're going to go to camera 8. Here we go. Okay, so you can see that we are doing some stuff in the non-planar world with sockets. So you can see we don't have the lines just perfect. You can see on this side, oh boy, that's hard. Over that way, you can see extrusion, and you can see that I'm literally doing this on my kitchen table. Here is a video of the way things are looking. And so this is a polar printer, which means that the bed is spinning and the head is moving up and down to get those. Now, with a 3-axis printer, you can see that I had to remove the Z sensor because it would have hit otherwise. You are really limited by the height of the ears. That is really difficult to get. And then you can see that we're almost capturing the slope height of the way that ceramic nozzle is. And I said ceramic. there. Here's another video from my phone. So up and down, up and down. The crazy thing is we're able to push some crazy volumes. So with this hot end, I wasn't even trying that hard, but cooling is an issue. So I was at 36 millimeter cubes per second in non-planar. So pretty wild here. Here's kind of the bottom level. Um, this was for my son. It says, once I started spending my own money, I realized my mom was right. We do have food at home. So in case you didn't know, I love memes. Let me see if I can get back to one of the other projects that was working on. So take a look at this. So that socket, and I will show you that one in just a second. Really, really amazing. So pretty wild stuff. Let me show you one more thing that I think is pretty neat. So this is a little piece that I did for osseointegration person, a little stomper for them to start weight bearing. So that was pretty neat. That was done. It's white, but it was done on our color machine. Let's see if there's anything else. For those of you that are curious about what the SLS printer process looks like, so this is looking in, this is a safe window to look in, but you can see that the laser goes in and literally outlines every little piece that goes in. So it's a little bit slower than say a multi-jet fusion, but with this particular material, it's worth it to get the extra safety factor as well as just that impact resistance that's so needed in prosthetics and orthotics. So here's with the light there, and you can see how detailed that is. It's just so wild. Every time I watch this machine, it's pretty wild. So again, a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's slow. And it's not fast, but the material properties to me are worth it. Let's see if there is anything else. We'll show you some more non-planar stuff. So this was one of the tests. So you can see that we're moving. This is not sped up, but look how fast that filament is moving. And you can see the Z is going up and down. Pretty wild. The non-planar stuff is nutty. Let's see if there's anything else. I'll show you this one thing here. This thing's pretty cool. This is an AFO that I've done for somebody. So if you're watching it, hello there. Thank you for allowing us to do this. It's a really cool AFO using the Coyote strut. If you haven't used the Coyote strut for your AFOs, I highly, highly recommend it. All right, let's see if there's one more thing here. Okay, so now I want to talk about recipes. And I think this is really important is as a prosthetist orthotist, I'm going to tell you a quick story that happened to me when this is really 2006. There was at that time, one of our bodies called the American Orthotics Prosthetics and American Association for Orthotists and Prosthetists, the American Orthotist Prosthetist Association, AOPA. They did these things called short courses. And one of the short courses I had the opportunity to go to was called the RCR course, which stands for Rotation Control range of motion. And I had seen this socket. It just didn't look quite right, but I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to learn about it. And so what I did was I signed up for the course, and the way they did it is you had somebody that was a uh, participant. So you had the patient model, and then they had people that watched. So you four people that watched, but you're still part of the course. And so I got a call that said, "Hey Brent, we had our participant cancel. Can you be a participant? And then we know that you were watching. We're not going to charge you extra, whatever." And I was like, "Hey, what's the worst that can happen? I epic failure, okay." And little did I know that decision that I made really changed my life and the way that I treat patients. So I got to learn from Dale Perkins, John Michael, and this patient that I had was a very difficult patient that resided in Chicago. They had been seeing her for a long time. And I remember creating this socket for her, and then she started crying. And I was like, oh, this is not good. And she goes, no, no, no. I'm telling you, this socket is amazing. It's the best I've ever felt. And I was like, well, all I really did was follow the recipe. And so that's the first time that it happens. So if you haven't checked out, they have changed the name to StableFlex, but if you go to Coyote's website, they have that. It's changed a little bit over the years, but the idea is that everything starts with this high tension fiberglass cast. So when you are casting with fiberglass, you are literally pulling as tight as you can, and you're letting off right before that fiberglass rips. And I've been doing that for almost 20 years now. I would say very successfully. Along came uh, Jochen, and he says, Vagel, he says, Brent, can you check out this AirFit system? And I've seen a bunch of other systems, and I've actually been very impressed with them. I had patients that are happy with them, but I always come back to this high tension fiberglass cast. I think that that's very interesting. And very inexpensive, but there is a technique to it. Takes a little bit of time, but once you get it, your cast will be like my cast, and the next person's cast will be like my cast. But there's still technique to it. With the AirFit system, there's a little bit of technique, but I'm going to show you a picture of it. So this is the AirFit cast. So you see this kind of piece in here, and then you put the leg in, and there's a air bladder in there, and then there's space in between, and you literally take a paddleboard pump and you pump it up, and it pumps air up and pushes in on the leg. And you can see at the very top there's a piece that kind of pushes that bladder down, so it makes sure that you're getting focus pressure underneath. Why is this important? One, it allows the patient to fully bear weight on it. They can kind of see how it feels. The other thing that's neat about air is it will relieve the bony areas and push in on tissue areas. So it's different than other systems. I would say, and before I go further, the jury's still out. I'm still going to be fitting these patients on both sockets, and I'm going to show you the scans of both sockets just to see what you think. So with this socket system, we pumped it up, and who knows if the paddleboard pump thing was, the right thing, but it was like 650 whatever psi. I don't even know what the number was. It was 650, and that's where she felt this patient felt good. And what was amazing is she felt like this socket was tight. She would move her leg around, and she felt very supported and comfortable. So once we took the air out of this, I then just held the cast and had her put weight through it, and she said it felt great. I did the same thing with a high tension fiberglass cast, and same thing. It felt good. And so this is really what I think is amazing in the prosthetic and orthotic realm is there are multiple paths to get people happy in their prosthesis. I've seen some sockets that I'm like, there's no way that patient is comfortable. And the reality is, they were comfortable. And I think that is fantastic that there are multiple ways. But I think the thing that I find most interesting is I can get there in multiple ways, but having a recipe allows me to scale. So there are some companies that build their company around this specific system because they get consistent results every single time. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you the scans of the socket. And so I'm going to take this off. And I actually have a really cool view for you. So let's get me down here. So check this view out. So this is my haptic device. And you can see I'm down here in the corner. So let me just make sure that's working. Cool. So this is the AirFit system, and I'm going to take all these curves off. And I really didn't know what to do with this data, but you can see that this cast is really, really clean. And I like to use the little coyote dots, they're little foam dots. So distal end of the patella, cut into the tibia. But you can see that the umbrella, even though it's misaligned, oops, is really resolved very nicely. So this is a scan of the inside of cast with the ArtTech Eva. And it's really beautiful. Like there's not a lot of stuff that you have to do to this cast. Very, very nice cast. And you can even see like the indentation of the patella over the PML. Very, very cool. I then took the hand cast. Ooh, that pink is bright. Let me activate. We're going to take that color down. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Let's make that blue. There we go. Blue's not going to be green. How about green? Okay. There we go. All right. So again, pretty good cast. This is a high tension fiberglass cast. I've got some wrinkles around the distal end, but not really a big deal. And you see that these resolve pretty well. And you see a really nice medial flare to load. You get a little bit of triangulation of the socket there, and you get an idea of how this flows out for your transtibials. So now what I did is I was like, okay, well, let's take a look and let's overlay, activate both of these, and let's see what we come up with. So the green is the hand cast, and the kind of the grayish color is the AirFit cast. And you can see that this high tension fiberglass cast has a little bit more length. Everything is lined up. So these linear measurements, you can see that the fibular head is in a different spot, potentially in a different spot, but you can see what the difference is. So the reality is I need to put that air cast, and maybe we do that hand cast, back a little bit. I really haven't thought or talked through this much, so you're kind of getting my raw feedback. So let's just move this back a little bit. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. So if you're wondering, this is Octane Freeform. All right. So you can see what has happened with this the air cast versus the high tension fiberglass cast. The popliteal is rounder here. You can see that this tissue has come up a little bit, but given us a really nice pocket for the distal tibia. The tissue on top of this patella is a little bit more compressed. Um, but the other thing that's interesting is that you can see that the air cast here actually does a better job getting that PML than the high tension fiberglass cast. The high tension fiberglass cast has a better medial flare and it probably is going to support this area better. But remember what she said is she was happy with both sockets. So, I mean, what do you do? She's been in a RCR socket for about 7, 8 years. It's been a long time, so I can't wait to fit her with the aircast. And I think that's what I'm getting at mostly here is, hey, if there's an opportunity to have a recipe, and with me doing a lot of stuff in the developing world, if I can train people how to use the recipe and the tools, and we can get a good scan and then automate from there on out, why wouldn't we do that? I think that is an amazing option or opportunity. And if patients ultimately, if the patient outcomes are better, let's just say they're the same, mostly there, why would you not want to have a recipe to scale and train an operation? And I think that's the biggest thing is while our field is definitely artistic and there is an art to it, some of that art doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of what you do in the modifications. It can come in what recipe did you use and how do you modify that recipe each time for each specific patient. And that comes in the form of fitting. So that's my take on the AirFit system. I'm really looking forward to fitting it. If you have any comments, questions, definitely leave them in the comments. I keep on checking here, and we've just had some people just kind of check in. Let's see here. See if there's anything, any other comments. Okay. So that is the AirFit system. I'm super excited to try it, and guess what? I think it's going to work for transfemorals as well, and that's going to be a game changer. So we've talked about adjustable sockets and automation, what's coming down the pike. That software that I just used is Freeform, now Hexagon. That's a Geomagic Freeform, a Hexagon product now. It was Octane. Advanced 3D does sell that, and we do training for it, so happy to help you there. And so now and we talked non-planar. So I want to actually show you some of these sockets live. And let me see maybe what the, well, best way. So when you're running G code for the first time, you should always stay by your machine. I about left this on the printer because it was actually doing pretty well. And I was like, you know what? It only has like 3 minutes left. I'm going to watch it. And it's a good thing that I did because the ending G code was wrong and it about jammed my nozzle all the way to the bed, which caused that scarring. So there you go. So this is the first full socket that I've printed with this kind of non-planar sinusoidal socket. And you can see that it's not perfect, but man, is it beautiful for the first one. And the thing that I see when I'm using a polar printer is that you get nice non-faceted edges. But here's the thing that I've realized about non-planar as well, is that as you go up and down, that extrusion multiplier changes depending on where you are printing. And so what you can see, and I don't know if you can see it here with the lighting, is you can see where that apex is, where there's a little bit more thickness, and it's just a matter of tuning. The seam is fairly ugly. I'm not happy with that. You can see that I had some issue down here with the base at the beginning, but I mean, really, really cool first step. And for this is just a white PLA. I just wanted something easy to print, so I can dial in some of the settings of the tool pathing. It's really, really strong. It's really, really strong. I can't explain this enough how strong the socket is. It's incredible. These little paths make a big difference. And so when you compare that to something that has a linear, like the bamboo, it's this a beautiful print, gorgeous print. Like there's not a lot to say bad about this. However, you can feel the difference in strength just by squeezing. It just is a stronger way to go, and you have a longer layer, which means that more adhesion per layer, and these angles now distribute the forces that would be going through the socket in some very it translates them and disperses them, which I believe is going to help in the tension and compression when they're loading their heel and their toe. I think it's really neat. So I'll show you a couple of the other sockets. This socket was a full non-planar, not sinusoidal, and it's not too bad. You can see that cooling sometimes is an issue. This seam is much better, but there's work to be done. The extrusion, so you can see that some of this is over extruded here. But the amount of math that goes into this is unbelievable. So is it worth it? I actually don't know, to be honest with you. But it's pretty neat to have a cantilevered system. And I'm gonna find a picture for you really quick. Um, of the printer, just so you can see what it looks like. Huh. Where is it? Well, it's a cantilever style printer, has a rotating bed like what I showed. I couldn't find the picture there. This one, super ugly, not super happy with it. But nonetheless, you can see that there's a lot of promise to it. So I always say that it's funny, like this is the max that I can get without interfering with that slope is the max I can get without interfering with the rest of the mechanism. So that means that I'm going to have to do something. So this let's see here. The nozzle is coming like this and then coming down, and you just are going to have interference as this thing comes down. However, this is where that fourth axis might be nice, is you can come in perpendicular to the path and not worry about interference, especially when you have something that's a cantilever over top. So that is a little bit about what we're up to. Let's see here. See if there's any other questions. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Um, so for those of you that are in the Bamboo ecosystem, I just want to remind you that we do have an option for the shorter sockets to print in two separate pieces. So I did them two different colors so you can kind of see. But you can print a tall socket that wouldn't necessarily fit on a Bamboo printer in two pieces. And then you just use the aquarium adhesive to put them together. So literally there is no reason not to 3D print these. And I think that is really important for you to know. And you get a really, really strong socket, very cost effective. It's a great way to take control of some of the fabrication in your practice. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope that was helpful. Maybe get you thinking a little bit, and hopefully we have some discussion around automation, recipes, very important, printing styles and technologies, non-planar, polar printing, Cartesian printing. Is there better, worse, the same? Are we overthinking it? Maybe. If you enjoyed this, let us know. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at Advanced 3D. It's adv3dinc.com. And then drop me a line on LinkedIn too if you want to catch up. So I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Stay safe. And until next time, we'll catch you later.